Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Moskaitis, the Director of Marketing at VSGi. This afternoon, we welcome Michael DeBella with Kramer. We're very excited for him to give a short presentation on the Kramer VIA. It's a great wireless presentation solution that we've been using more and more, especially in some of our huddle designs for huddle rooms. I am going to record this session and send it out to everyone afterwards. We'll also put it up on the VSGi website under the resources section. Without further ado, though, I'd like to hand it off to Michael, and he can get started showing us the VIA. Thanks for having us, or thanks for being here, Michael.
No, no problem at all. Thank you so much for having me. And I'd also like to thank everyone for joining in. It's not lost on me the demands on everyone's schedule. So, you know, I'm going to do my very best to be brief, be bright, and be gone to, so to speak. My goal is to keep this to about 45 minutes and allow another 15 or so on the back end for questions. So really what, I just want to kind of set the table a little bit. And, if there's one thing that I've learned over the course of my career is that Kramer is probably the largest company that you may never have heard of. We're a global operation with over 35 offices around the world. More importantly, we really are a complete end-to-end solution company, meaning we have product SKUs that range everything from, of course, the wireless, which we're going to talk about today, right through your traditional switchers, scalers, transmitters, receivers. We even have cloud-based controls, speakers, DAs. So really, we are a soup to nuts company, which is a fantastic position to be in. And the reason why I say all of that is everybody on this call, there's one unique factor that we all have, is that we all need support. Just as you look to VSGi, for support, obviously, the manufacturers that support them, you need to have that hand in hand. So the size of our company certainly bodes very well for any of our adopters. So before, I dive too much into what the VIA product line is, for me, I always look at it very simple. And I want to take a couple of minutes and kind of understand why we are in the place that we're in now. And, it really begins with the landscape that has changed forever. I kind of liken this transitional time, to that of back in maybe 2008, 2009, maybe even 2010, where there were conversations going on that said, hey, these analog boxes might be going away. There's this digital thing, and there's this HDMI cable. And one thing that happened 10 years ago was you had plenty of people going, nah, that HDMI cable, that's for residential only. And they really kind of minimized it. And I think that right now we're in that same position as it relates to wireless. And if you look at, kind of where we are right now, no one needs to define for you, obviously, what's happened with BYOD. To me, what the amazing number is right now, the average person, it's ironic they say 3.3 devices a person, but we'll just round it off and call it 3, but each one of us within the business world are carrying with us 3 devices. They say within 5 years, that's going to jump to 7. So, the increase in devices, the increase in technology, obviously is driving this market. And what's fueling it on the back end, because, we have these devices, is mobility, quite frankly. It's our ability to move around an office complex, bring our content with us, have our content everywhere we go. And if you look at a wireless world, really one of the aspects for me that becomes incredibly important is, number one, and you never really think about technology in this way, but, technology drives talent acquisition and retention. Your employees are going to look, to their employer based on the amount of technology that they can integrate into their lives. And if you're spending 8 to 12 hours a day in an office, or you're remote in some way, you need to be able to integrate these. And because of that, technology obviously is driving talent, but it also becomes the expectation of your employee. So this, kind of changed landscape, as I call it, being driven obviously by mobile devices, really becomes the cornerstone for, really how we're doing business. And who's at the center of all of this? Obviously millennials. The millennial generation, one of the most amazing facts to me is that within 4 years, and I'm sure that most everybody on this line probably watched the presidential election or the debate last night. If you think about our next election process, millennials are going to occupy over 50% of our workforce. So it's paramount for all of our collective successes to be able to integrate the technology for which they use and integrate technology to allow them to communicate at the levels that they do. And, you know, how does it relate back to business? It's about collaboration. And admittedly, it's probably one of the most overused words within our daily world, and that's coming from a guy whose website is truecollaboration.com. But, you know, you have to be able to realize that how people meet, congregate, and communicate is all about collaboration now. Things are not siloed anymore. And more importantly, as it relates to technology, because we all carry smartphones and tablets, we have access to apps that could do virtually anything. So we have to have integrated systems in our meeting spaces that take the power away from the knowledge worker and really put it back into the corporation and the network managers who are managing the technology. You know, and if you look at, you know, one of the things I always come back to is communication. And I'll date myself. You know, I'm 43 years old. I'm smack dab in the middle of the Gen X generation. So, you know, if you think about the phone, you know, as my main means of communication, now it's email and IM. A conference system used to be built by, you know, the Ciscos and Polycoms that would be tens of thousands of dollars, not to mention all the installation. Now it's an app away with Skype. You know, as I just referred to our meetings, right, very structured. Now the huddle spaces made it so that it's minute by minute. And of course, you know, what I just talked about, the collaborative nature of what goes on. As opposed to myself, who, you know, when I have to write this presentation, I go in my office, close the door, and ask people not to talk to me. So again, today's workforce is going down everything you see at the right. And more importantly, and I think the reason why everyone's on this phone, is all of these things are being done by the devices that they keep in their back pocket. So if you're willing to admit that everything on the left is completely, you know, is the very definition of how we meet and how we access content, then obviously everything on the right, you have to be able to integrate those devices. For me, one of the more, you know, exciting aspects of this changed landscape is the fact that we have more spaces to deal with. And I think it's, you know, it's incredible as a manufacturer, it's incredible as a systems integrator, as VSGi is, and of course on your end. You know, we're no longer bound by four walls. Now we can, any place there is a display, we can now meet. And more importantly, again, the millennial generation likes this level of you know, collaboration and meeting and informality in a lot of ways. So why do I mention this? Well, if you're going to have a display and call it a productive meeting spot, you have to be able to connect those devices. And, you know, again, very quickly, if you look at our space, if you look at our environment, everything has changed. You know, as I talked about, the infrastructure has changed, the devices, the people have changed. So now you have to look at your rooms and look at the technology that supports it and say, okay, how is that adapting? How has that changed? And again, think about 10 years ago. It was coax cable, RCA cables, which moved into HDMI. Now, HDMI is moving, you know, as it relates to your knowledge worker, is going wireless. And that really is where VIA comes into. So for those of you who aren't aware of what VIA is a complete product line of wireless connectivity and collaboration devices that allows virtually any BYOD to be able to wirelessly connect to any projector, any display, anything that you have going on. More importantly, you know, and as you can see by the quote there, just this past year, Forbes has recognized this product line as one of the top 5 technologies that you have to integrate. So again, this isn't just Michael DeBella from Kramer talking. I don't think anybody is going to, you know, have any doubts with, you know, the credibility that Forbes brings to the table. So let's take a look at the solution as a whole. You know, again, we've identified the need now. Now let's look at the platform. What's unique about Kramer and the VIA product line is most companies out there, they'll have wireless connectivity solutions, but they'll have one, at best, maybe 2 different boxes, so to speak, to use. We, however, cover the gamut, meaning we have pure wireless connectivity if you need basic, kind of no-frills solutions. We also have the collaboration, which offers a complete suite of interactive, collaborative feature sets that you're able to use. For me, what's probably most important, and most important for the people on this line, is the system management aspect that goes on in back of it. So not only do you have the ability to integrate the VIA boxes, so to speak, to keep it simple, but we actually have a management platform that allows you to configure, control, update everything within your VIA community. And of course, we have some accessories, and all of these I'll get into. So generically speaking, if you think about that image I just showed you, on the far left we have connectivity, and for my money, the ability to wirelessly connect a phone, a tablet, a laptop, that was impressive years ago. Right now that's kind of the common standard. That's like saying, hey, my car could go up to 60 miles an hour. You expect it to. So with that said, all of our products, no matter what you get, will certainly allow for connectivity. As it relates to the collaboration, 3 of our 4 products offer a very diverse set of collaborative tools, all of which I'll dive into. And like I said, the management and the accessories really kind of lean towards guest connectivity. And, so again, let me dive into this further, right? So now that we have an understanding for the landscape that's changed and the VIA product line kind of holistically at a very top 3,000-foot view, let's dive into it a little bit more. So as people go around, tire kicking, so to speak, different wireless solutions, the question becomes, hey, why this guy over that guy? And kind of, a very broad stroke, with VIA is that we offer not only the bare minimum requirements, but also some really cool advancements, such as we're the only ones in the marketplace that allow or that are able to accept Chromebooks support. And you may say, hey, listen, there's no Chromebooks in my organization. But Chromebooks actually outsold iPads last year, being dominated by the education segment. So one of the things I talked about, talent acquisition, all of these kids were being brought up with Chromebooks. At some point, those Chromebooks are going to enter the work environment. Obviously, iOS and Android mirroring, and some of the other features that I'd really like to dive into is our 60 frame per second video playback, as well as some of our content security. So, as I said, let's dive into some of the more important or more impressive features that I think relate directly to today's workforce. And in doing so, I think the key to understanding VIA really comes down to 3 different things. The first and foremost piece is you have to understand the difference between presenting and collaborating. I stated earlier, collaboration, one of the most overused words. I was just at Infocom a couple of months ago, and there was a vendor promoting HDMI cables as a collaboration solution because you're able to connect your device. It's ludicrous thinking to me. So for me, you have to unpack what they mean. Then you have to look at the core functionality. I talked about how VIA has different product sets. It's important to understand that even if you get the most basic VIA, you're not getting a basic product. You're getting a very revolutionary product, but there are certain feature sets that go throughout. And then, of course, as you go up the product line, there's certain things that are proprietary not only to those products, but to VIA. So, the first thing I talked about, or the first thing I mentioned on that list, is presenting versus collaboration. And, it sounds crazy to think, but, technology is really, not only is the technology moved, in terms of what it can do, but there's also been a shift in how we purchase technology. In the past, it was all features driven. What could it do? Now, there's a lot of ROI attached to technology, right? It's the ability to implement technology and get more out of your workforce. And I think that one of the key elements, and this will also lean on the aspect of our proprietary software, is the fact that everybody has the ability to present, right? Presenting is one direction. Again, I said I was 43 years old, so when I sat in the classroom, the teacher went up front. It was my job to digest the information. In today's meeting spaces, we're fundamentally built upon someone plugging in content, putting it up on a screen, and giving it to you. Even Webster, if you don't believe me, they define it as the ability to show. Whereas today, our workforce is collaborative, meaning they bring their individual skill sets to the table on a common goal, and they work at it. And again, look at what Webster calls it. And as a businessman, I say to myself, if I'm going to recommend technology, do I want to do what Webster says is to show, or do I want to do what Webster defines as putting a group together to achieve or do something? So the technology obviously is the centerpiece of that. And I began by saying that the difference between presentation and connectivity becomes paramount to understanding this. And one of those aspects is, you know, again, anybody could present, not anyone could collaborate, and we're in that shift. So we talked about VIA core functionality, right? So no matter what box you get, these are the things that you're able to get, right? So you have content security, 60 frame per second video playback, mirroring, obviously the ability to integrate all of today's most common operating systems, Chromebook, iOS, Android, PC. All of these things you get regardless of the unit. But for me, what's more important is to dive into what's proprietary. What are the things that only VIA can do? And there are a handful of things that certainly fit into that category. And the first thing is what we call, and again, you're allowed to make fun of me, it's true collaboration for being part of the problem of overusing words. Now, where this comes into, and again, what was I just talking about? Understanding the difference between presentation and collaboration. So what our true collaboration feature allows you to do is it allows a piece of content to oversimplify, a piece of content to go up on the screen, and for multiple people to dynamically access that file. Now here I'm showing, because it's a PowerPoint, I'm showing some whiteboarding, which, you know, fine, a lot of people can do. More importantly, what we have the ability with VIA as proprietary towards us is the ability for control enablement. Meaning, if I put up this spreadsheet, I could enable control over, you know, through the VIA software. Now, everybody in this room can now connect not only to the device, but access the content. So, you know, here I'm showing some sales figures. Instead of going the old way of saying, all right, you know, hey, you know, John's on the phone, and Gary B, what are your numbers? I'll type them in. Now, you know, Craig Lepp could actually come in, fill in all of the data into the individual cells themselves, really becoming a truly collaborative environment. Now, this is a very simplistic, obviously, example using Excel, but imagine it's a PowerPoint, and, you know, Mark's on the line, he says, hey, listen, Bella, I don't like that picture of the iPad. Let's make it an Android, because I know that's what my customers are using. He could go in and make these changes dynamically. Now, the other aspect which is incredible about this is the fact that you could now save the file and utilize VIA to push it out. And I say that in the spirit of we've all sat in meetings where we, you know, access some content, we make some changes, and someone says, hey, do me a favor. Pull out your phone, take a picture, and text that image over to you. And if you think about it from a security standpoint, that's horrifying. You're taking proprietary information that you're meeting on, that your company is, you know, has already targeted as high value. You're going to put it on what might be your personal phone and send it over public airways to somebody else's personal phone where they may or may not save it. So when you think about data integrity, VIA actually has the ability to push this file out through the system itself, not putting any kind of bandwidth limitations on your email. Obviously, there's no memory issues going on. So it becomes a very powerful tool. And a lot of people say, hey, listen, all I need to do is be able to connect. I don't need this level of collaboration. To that, I say you've never seen this level of collaboration. You know, again, it's we've all sat, you know, and called up our IT department and say, hey, I have a problem with my computer. They gain access and they utilize your computer. It's the same technology. So once you have it, you'll never turn back. And again, this becomes the key aspect. And anyone who says that things like this, you know, aren't going on, I would say, hey, look at things like Google Docs and things of that aspect that have, at a certain level, multiple access. The next thing I'd like to dive a little deeper into is video presentation. And if there's one thing that is true in today's working environment, 2016, 2017, that may not have been as true in years past, is that video is integrated in every meeting that we have. Whether it's, you know, from a marketing department going over competitive videos, you're looking at training videos, you know, from an HR department perspective, you know, you're going to YouTube to show, you know, whatever it is you're looking to do. Or maybe it's just, hey, it's the start of the meeting and you want to go to ESPN and show the, you know, the highlights of Sunday afternoon games before the meeting starts. And again, if you're willing to say that video is used in a very high percentage of your meetings, but you can't properly display video over a wireless network, then by definition you don't have a meeting, or you have a flawed meeting at best. VIA is the only one who's able to do a full 60 frame per second video stream. What we do for native files is we're able to actually encode them. We stream them over to the VIA device, which then decodes them. So again, you're able to get the full 60 frames at 1080p. We also have for stream mirroring, we're using not capture technology like everybody else. What we're using is, again, streaming technology. So we're able to stream a video such as YouTube over to the main display. And at that level, you're getting a nice, smooth video output. And one of the things that, people always talk about is, how your eyes kind of could fill in the blanks. Anyone who understands 4K certainly knows that your eyes are filling in an awful lot of blanks as it relates to pixel size. And the same is with a video stream. We could figure out any choppy video. But what we cannot do is decode for audio. Our brains do not fill in those gaps. So even if the video is somewhat okay, any kind of lossy audio is going to completely derail the meeting. So the ability to have complete 60 frames per second video playback in any meeting really becomes a fundamental difference between VIA and anybody else. Now, I said earlier, that, I'd be talking about security, and, I will say that security probably is the least sexy thing to talk about, certainly the least sexy thing on this PowerPoint deck, but I would certainly argue that it's the most important. And it was just last week that Yahoo admitted that, they had the world's largest data breach, that has ever happened. So, we're seeing these day after day, night after night. And one of the aspects of VIA that makes it, unique in the marketplace is the fact that we're the only one, and I stress, the only ones doing a full 1024-bit content encryption. So what does this mean? Obviously, in order to run VIA, you have to have some level of an app. And because it's wireless, I'm not breaking any new ground, that content's going to go over the airwaves, so to speak. So once it hits the airwaves, by definition, anybody can get their hands on it. So, I understand that your network will obviously be doing some encrypting, but our software, and that software is on each device that's connected, is doing a full content encryption. So as it's being transmitted, it's fully, being encrypted at a 1024-bit level, which is the highest common standard there is. The protocols that we're using to do this are common protocols such as SSH and OpenPGP, which are, the same language. The reason why that's important, it's the same language that your existing network is using. So as we communicate with your network and all of this encryption, your network will be able to handle it. So everything is hand in hand. One of the things that is so important to read the fine print about, you talk about, a lot of companies will talk about their 128-bit encryption, and really what that does is they're not talking about content. They're talking about the secure line that they have with your network. And 128, obviously, you guys could also, you don't need to be security experts to understand that 128 is a whole lot less than 1024. So it's a basic common standard. I would say, for the most part, anybody with an updated smartphone, that smartphone is doing more encryption than those devices. And one of the common phrases that you hear a lot is, hey, listen, don't worry about it. We're as secure as your network. It goes on your network as long as you're doing it, then you're fine, which is ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous because in most data breaches, more than 75% of them happen from people within your network. So if I'm on your network and all things are equal, I can now create a data breach. The example that I often use is, it's like me building you $1 million house, not putting any locks on it, and me saying, hey, yeah, it's as secure as your ability to fend off a criminal. Give me the locks. Let's go that extra mile. And again, with VIA, we're the only ones going that extra mile. And one of the things I'm actually happy to report, I was talking about content security, our device itself, the device itself was just been recognized by OWASP, OWASP, which is the Open Web Application Security Program, or something like that. Anyway, they just recognized our device as being the most secure in class. So, what does that mean? That means now not only can I not hack the content, but now you have additional protection against hacking the device, which then obviously would then lead you to other devices on the network. And we are the only ones with the certification. So again, not only is the content at the highest secure rate possible, but the device is. So you have no vulnerability within your network when using something like this. The next thing to talk about is video conferencing. It's video conferencing, again, like video playback, is, part of our everyday, whether it's because of mobile employees, decentralized locations, or just general meetings with people outside. What has changed, however, is how we use them. In the past, they were relatively complex systems that were built directly into the rack in the room. Now we're pulling out our device, and again, talk about security. We might pull out our personal device, our personal tablet, and go to our, personal FaceTime, our personal Skype accounts to maintain business. The beauty of VIA is that, as it relates to the campus and collage, they're actually Windows-based systems. They're running a Windows platform on the back end. So stated differently, if you were to buy a VIA collage from me today, the black box that shows up at your doorstep is a PC. It's a PC that happens to have VIA on it. So stated differently, not only could you put VIA on that PC, but you could pre-install your BlueJeans, your Cisco WebEx, or whatever. So now let me walk you through a use case. Now you walk into your conference room or your huddle space. Now instead of pulling out your device to facilitate the video conference, now through VIA, you access BlueJeans, your Skype, your link, whatever, and you run that meeting off of VIA itself. The beautiful part about that is, from a network management standpoint, now the device and more importantly the content is being managed by you, because that's all over the network. So you have total control, which becomes a necessary part of how we manage systems. And obviously the video conferencing piece is necessary. Now, bringing it one step further, everyone in the world likes to talk about their integrated systems. With VIA, essentially what you're getting is a soft codec. So now, instead of going to two different solutions, two different installations that you have to manage and service, now you can do everything all in one. Again, part of that very impactful value proposition that VIA brings. Now, those are just some of the kind of main highlights, some of the bigger pictures, if you will, or bigger features, that VIA offers. But, of course, VIA has a multitude of other aspects and features, from Android mirroring, file sharing I touched upon. We have full whiteboard and annotation. The third-party app certainly refers back to the video conferencing, but an example of VIA and that ability to load third-party apps is, I recently did an installation in a shared workspace here in Manhattan, and what they wanted was Pandora radio playing in the background, so that when you walked into the room, you had some music playing. We're able to load that on VIA and actually push that out. So, you think about all of the different things that we're able to do. It's pretty impactful. Now, to me, what's important is not the fact that we could do all of these different things, but the fact that we could enable and disable each one of these features. So with everybody else in the marketplace, you buy that black box, it shows up, you plug it in, you get it running. Now you have to go through a deployment process, right? You have to teach people how to use it. So if you have 1,000 different features on that dashboard that you're looking at, depending on your environment and the profile of the knowledge workers that work for you, that might be overwhelming, or maybe the students and teachers in case you're in a higher education facility. That can be very overwhelming. Whereas with VIA, you can actually begin to turn things off. So you say, all right, Michael, I don't need chat. I don't need, for now, I don't want to have whiteboarding, things like that. I want to allow people to connect, access the internet, and do some video calls. We could literally disable everything else so that when that knowledge worker walks in, all you're looking at is 3 simple buttons in that example. But obviously, you can customize it any way you want. And what's also, a nice little benefit of VIA is, I'm talking about how we have a variety of different solutions. It's the same software that operates everything. So again, Me, the employee, I could walk into the executive conference room, which has all the bells and whistles, and now, it's the same software that accesses the huddle room that doesn't have as many bells. So kind of taking a look at, holistically that's the 5th time I've used that word, so sorry for all you guys listening. But anyway, looking at our product portfolio, I've referenced them by name a couple of different times, but, if you really think about it, what it comes down to is on the left-hand side, the Collage and the Campus, they're running Windows-based systems on the back end. So at that level, you have the full computer. The Connect Pro and the Go, which was actually just released, they're Linux-based. So they certainly have the flexibility and the power to be able to do a lot of different feature sets, but you wouldn't be able to natively download some of the third-party apps and go through that level. As I said, the Collage and Campus, you're really looking at kind of a soft codec that has not only the collaboration aspect, full mirroring, video conferencing, the quizzing and polling, things like that. On the lighter end, the VSGo, that is for your basic connectivity. That's for me to be able to walk into a space, primarily probably a smaller space, a huddle room, allow, up to 254 people, sure, but the real likely case within the Go's point of view will be, maybe 4 or 5 people with a couple of devices each, and be able to put some content up there. The Connect Pro really becomes the staple of most organizations in terms of a rollout because it offers you a suite of collaboration features, as well as all the HD video and security that we talked about. Now, at the beginning of this, I mentioned that, for my money, the most important aspect is the ability to manage these devices. Now, one of the issues that, certainly goes on and that we're seeing more and more, especially within corporate America, is as we're seeing the number of meeting spaces explode because display costs have come down so much. Now we have to have more devices to manage, and what we're looking at is different levels of standardization across the enterprise. So we're saying, okay, the marketing group's going to get 4 or 5 meeting spaces and huddle rooms. We want them to look this way, whereas the accounting group, we're going to keep it more basic. And of course, that's amplified when you look at colleges and any kind of educational situation. So what the VIA management allows you to do is not only deploy the unit and update firmware and things like that, but you could create groups. So now you say, okay, the marketing department's going to have these 5 features as opposed to, again, the accounting department, which is only going to have 2. As you build out more space, and then by definition you need more VIA, you can now take that same configuration, plug the VIA in, and just move it forward. So you don't have to go through that arduous process of going unit by unit by unit, going through a configuration process. The other piece, as I alluded to, is firmware. For any organization with really more than 3 to 5 units, updating firmware on a one-to-one basis can be quite daunting. With our VSM, the VIA management, VM systems management software package, again, you could push out firmware to hundreds and thousands of units, all with the click of a button. So it becomes huge. On the back end, you have a window into that room. And the reason why I think this is important is because you can monitor that space. One of the bigger trends that we're seeing, especially within larger companies, is you're having to roll out of huddle spaces by the tens, if not hundreds. So, what happens is you make an investment in space. So you're investing in the space, the technology, the furniture, everything. And then what happens is you have employees that go to the same 2 to 3 spaces and not utilize the other 7 that have been sitting there where the lights haven't gone on. What the VIA management system does is give you that window. So it'll tell you, hey, listen, with rooms 5 through 7 haven't been turned on in 3 weeks, whereas rooms 1, 2, and 3 haven't been turned off. Let's spread this workload around a little bit. And then the other piece, obviously, is any kind of troubleshooting that may go on within the unit itself. Maybe you have some old firmware, so the devices are having trouble communicating with one another. The system will recognize that, communicate that, and allow you to act upon it without getting in the way of your normal business activities, which, again, I said earlier, you look at technology, you look at it from an ROI perspective, what VSM allows you to do is cut back on your help desk calls in ways. Now, finally, as we look at the product portfolio, we talked about accessories. And one of the accessories that we bring to the table is what we call the VIA Pad. The VIA Pad, listen, it's a dumb button. What I mean by that is dumb in terms of R&D that goes on alongside of it. The VIA button is ideal for any environment that has, some guest access. So again, I walk into your environment, you guys are using VIA, I'm new to it. I'm going to give you this huge presentation on why I'm the best in the world. You tell me in order to do so, I have to have VIA software. My IT guy, more often than not, and I'm sure that many of the IT guys on this phone right now, would tell their employees there is no way you're downloading software to my laptop. So, once that happens, we have no meeting, and it becomes a bust. And so rather than run wires everywhere to accommodate that fraction of the meeting space, but the VIA Pad allows you to USB connect in, download, run a virtual application. That virtual application gives you the complete suite of features that VIA offers. And more importantly, the second you unplug it, it leaves absolutely no footprint on your computer. So, that really is the power of the VIA Pad. Now, just to be clear, I know that there are other products in the marketplace that are dongle-based. Our dongle is not a standalone solution. If you were to buy one of these by itself, it wouldn't be able to do anything. It is dependent on the VIA unit. One of the other really nice things about it is, the VIA unit itself has front-loading USB ports. And obviously, this is a USB connection. What you could do is when you first, configure your room, you literally connect the VIA Pad directly into the VIA. You hold on to that button. And as you can see, I don't know how clear it is over WebEx, but, the button itself has a red and green LED light that goes around it. In the image, it's green currently. So what happens is you plug that into VIA, you hold on to it, it turns from red to green, and now it's automatically paired. The reason why that's important is now I'm your guest, I walk in, I now connect, I load the software will automatically connect me to that VIA device. So it bypasses my login process. So it makes connectivity even easier for any guest. So you don't have to worry about training, getting people up to speed. So as I draw to a near, I'm creeping up on that 45-minute time frame. I just want to, as I jokingly say, go ahead and judge me. I began by saying that, VIA has been recognized by Forbes, but VIA, most importantly, has been recognized by our industry. It's the most highly decorated device connectivity, wireless device connectivity and collaboration solution within its class. It's received Best in Show for multiple years. As you saw, the portfolio keeps growing and growing. So, piece that's never lost on me, whether you were, the end user, so to speak, and you're looking for what levels of connectivity to put into your environment, or if you're the integrator, right? If you're, VSGi and you're saying, okay, my reputation's at stake based on, the products that I'm going to recommend, the products I'm going to install. It's one of the luxuries of VIA is that, again, I defined all of the security protocols and everything that it can do, but it's also award-winning. So when the industry recognizes something, that obviously speaks very well to protecting the recommendations and installations that you guys are going to do. So, just some final thoughts. We talked about how our worlds have kind of changed. And obviously we talked at length about the VIA product portfolio. One of the things that, I certainly recommend to people is, try to avoid very complex infrastructures. What I mean by that is, I've mentioned HDMI and that mistake, quite frankly, in my mind it's a mistake. It's a necessary evil. But now, as it relates to wireless, we want simple connectivity. And we want it both in terms of our management, but we also want it, again, for our daily knowledge workers. One thing that I often say within our technology world, and when you go to Infocom and IFB and these different shows, is that we spend an awful lot of time talking to each other. And one of the things, you know, I actually gave a speech at InfoCon this year, and it was mostly corporate end users, a lot of IT folk, and I asked them, how many of you reached out to your knowledge workers and asked them what their pain points were? And virtually none of them raised their hand. And one thing that all knowledge workers are looking to do is they're looking for simple, easy-to-use systems. We all can probably sit around over a couple of beers and talk about the systems that we designed, purchased, or installed that were so complex that our workers didn't even use them. Obviously, we want to avoid that. And to me, why this becomes so important is, unlike my generation, which walked into a meeting space and was dependent on what you gave me, now, as I've already defined, today's millennial, which, again, 50% of our workforce, they're going to walk in with a display, with internet connectivity, a video conferencing system, total phone package all in their hands. It's called their smartphone. So it's important for us to manage those devices and get those on our platform and not external. The other aspect is flexibility. You know, I'm not breaking new ground by saying that, you know, we want something that can grow and evolve over time as technology changes. You know, again, I talked about history, right? Back in 2006-ish, 2007, you know, a tablet was just hitting the market. You know, so it was a luxury. It was, you know, I don't even understand why I need this. And, you know, again, me as a manufacturer, we as a technology industry, we really didn't consider this. We kind of ignored it. Now, a tablet is part of our everyday business. I mean, I would probably argue that there's no one on this call right now who doesn't have at least one of them. So, you know, we have to think about it. And then finally, IP convergence. You know, all of the, you know, we've heard AV over IP forever. And certainly VIA is waving that banner, you know, much louder and prouder than other people. You know, one of my colleagues often says that IP never lost a convergence. So, you know, it's important for us to really start to move these devices to a network managed situation and understand that, you know, AV as we know it is going through, the IT infrastructure. And, you know, certainly by moving things to wireless connectivity and utilizing software and network managed systems is a logical step towards that. So as I hit the 45-minute marker, I believe right on the nose, you know, not only did I want to thank you all, but one of the things, again, I mentioned at the beginning is that, you know, we have a nice large group on the phone right now, and one of the things that we certainly encourage you to do is reach out to your local VSGi sales rep and ask them about, hey, how could I get an online one-to-one demo? I'd be happy to jump on a call with you guys and, you know, show you the live demo. And if you like what you see, I could even get a demo out to you guys. So, you know, keep that in mind. Definitely work with your local rep on facilitating that if I was able to create enough interest. So at this point, what I would like to do is hand things back off and address any kind of questions that we may have that may have popped up either by phone or by chat, whatever it is. So how are we looking at it, Mark? How are we looking over there?
Hey, Mike, thanks. We have about 15 more minutes if anyone on the line would like to ask some questions. I have one I'd like to ask to get things started. A lot of our customers use AV control systems. Does the VIA integrate into one in particular, or can it be integrated into all the major control systems out there?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I mean, you think about, you know, I was only talking about AV, but obviously you have to have some kind of control platform on the back end. No, AV is control agnostic. So whether you're using a Crestron, an Extron, or, you know, obviously Kramer, we have our own control system. It doesn't matter. We use basic APIs. All of our APIs are listed on the website. So it's very easy to configure within a larger, more robust conference room scenario or deployment.
Okay. I have one from the chat box. Is there a way to send content being sent to one VIA Connect Pro to another Connect Pro that are on different displays?
Okay, so sending it from one, I just have to understand. The individual devices are not communicating with each other. The Control system would allow intercommunication depending on how you set it up. But what you would be able to do is put a switch in between that. And again, forgive me if I'm not fully understanding the question correctly. If so, please interject and type some more into the chat box in case I'm going down the wrong direction. But the end there, Mark, you said, and send multiple pieces of content to multiple displays. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
So, yeah, so what would happen is, for example, the VSGi Collide, it actually has two HDMI outputs. So you'd be able to run content to two different displays there. The other 3 units only have a single output. But all you would need to be able to do is put a, at its very basic level, an easy, 1x4 multi-format switch, or now 2x4, and run that multiple pieces of content to multiple displays. You wouldn't need to have multiple VIA units within the same room, and that's what I think they're getting at.
For everyone else on the line, I have unmuted everyone, so feel free to ask your question directly if you have one.
You just don't stump me publicly. I want everyone to think I'm really smart.
So there was a follow-up to that. It was clarified. The use case is an instructor can share their presentation onto displays for student huddle spaces that each have VIA Connect Pros.
Okay, so they're sending it to multiple rooms. Okay, so at that level, yeah, you would need to have a router in between. Natively, VIA is not a switcher per se, so what you would need to do is run VIA into a router, into a switch, and then that switch would need to output to those different huddle spaces or breakout rooms or whatever, whatever it is. And we often see that within, training rooms and higher education where you have spillouts. But you would need that router in there.
And if they were all in the same room, so you had different breakout spaces within one larger classroom.
Yeah, again, you would need control and you would need a switch in between. But yeah, so if you had a collaborative space where the teachers up at the front of the room, and forgive me if you're talking about a corporate environment, but it sounds like you're talking about an educational or training facility where you have teacher in the front of the room, they have a main display, they're connected. Then you have, for simplicity's sake, 2 different breakout areas at each side of the room where groups of 5 meet, connect, and utilize it and share upon content. You would need to put a switcher in between those 3 systems to allow the professor or the trainer to access that content and circulate it, and it would be the control system that's allowing that to happen. If anybody's interested, at kramerus.com, if you look up what we call a KCC, which is a Kramer Collaborative Classroom, that's the exact model that we're talking about. We actually showed it at InfoComm. It's the ability to have kind of your focal point content and breakout areas, but having that trainer and teacher be able to access and move content around the room. No matter what system you use, you're going to need control to be able to access and move it, and you're going to need the router to be able to put it out to multiple displays.
Excellent. Did anyone else have a question for Michael? I have one more here. You mentioned that the VIA can have up to 254 devices connected to it. Can you imagine a use case where that many devices would be on at one time?
Yeah, it happens all the time. They're like, great, who cares if I can have up to 254? It doesn't matter to me. And obviously, huddle rooms, that's certainly the case. I think that, you have to look at it, kind of big picture, right? So, there are some systems out there that are reliant on a dongle. To me, the problem is dongles are a one-to-one relationship. You can only connect the amount of people that you have dongles. What's worse off is now you have to manage each one of those dongles, which to me is overbearing. As it relates to 254, yeah, I mean, you have, with higher education, you're dealing with stadium-style classrooms where you're dealing with 100 to 200 different students. Within corporate America, more and more we're seeing training facilities coming in where you have, a room that holds up to 50 people And again, what did I say at the beginning of the conversation when we looked at the BYOD world? We're looking at 3 devices each. So now maybe I have my laptop doing most of the heavy lifting connected, but now I want to also use my tablet to go to the cloud to go get something, an image, a file, or whatever that my laptop can't do natively. Now I could connect everything through VIA, so now that 50-person training room now has 100 connected devices. And, you know, or if you bring it one step further, now I'm going to connect my phone, now you're up to 150. So, you know, admittedly, most meeting rooms are not using 254. But as we, you know, live in a world where we're having more and more devices, and look at your house. You know, I would ask that in your house, when you know, 5, 6 years ago, when you selected a wireless router, you said, all right, I have 1, maybe 2 laptops, and maybe one or 2 phones. You know, now your wife, yourself, your kids, each are going to have their own laptop, their own device. You have your smart TV that's connected to it. You know, everything now is connected to your wireless system. So, you know, the same logic certainly is going to apply to corporate America. So, again, it's you know, is it going to be used every day? No, but any training facility, large meeting space, you know, think about larger companies that have a couple of 100 employees. You get them together for, you know, a company meeting, a town hall, and you know, whatever, stockholder, you know, anything like that. You can bring them all in, connect them through VIA. The president of the company can issue their PowerPoint or presentation, and then natively push that file out to everybody. That's where you're going to see the use cases.
So going back to the use case you spoke about a few minutes ago, the classroom, we had a follow-up in the chat, and she was asking how can the presenter or the teacher stop a student from sharing their content on their screen and interrupting everybody?
That is an awesome question, my friend. Yeah, I mean, obviously within the context of 45 minutes, I can't get into every feature. What VIA has on its main dashboard, you know, again, we talk about collaboration until we're blue in the face. Sometimes we just need to shut up and listen to what the teacher has to say. There is right in the dead center of the dashboard of VIA, there's what we call do not disturb. So what happens is it's a simple little button. So me, the teacher, I walk in today, you know, or maybe for the first portion of the class, it's going to be shut up and listen time. I click this button. Now what happens is all the students who are connected, you still remain connected to VIA, except now what's going to happen is a big red bar is going to come right across my screen, and it's going to say do not disturb has been enabled. So I'm not going to be able to put content up on the screen. I'm not going to be able to do those dynamic changes or do anything like that. Teacher has full control. Now, you know, we're talking about, you know, a collaborative classroom. So, you know, maybe your lecture is an hour 15, the first 30 minutes, the lecture part. Now I say, okay, kid, you know, go to your booths, or I'm sorry, your individual pods, collaborative stations, whatever you want to call them. Again, I disable or turn that feature off. Now, me, the student, I can now access content, begin to put it back up on the feature state, and go through that thing. But the teacher or trainer, or, you know, hey, if it's a huddle space, I could do it to you. I can lock you down at any minute. And it's right up front. You don't have to go through. Now, competitors certainly have this functionality, but what you need to do is go through the settings on the back end and enable or disable that functionality, which obviously you're not going to give to your knowledge worker. So, you know, one of the things I talked about is how VIA very much limits your help desk questions and issues that goes on. Here's one of them. Now you could just tell your trainer, hey, listen, here's the button. Use it whenever you want. I don't have to go in the back end and enable and disable it based on the professor and their curriculum that they're doing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So it looks like we're just about at an hour now, so I'm going to go ahead and call that the end of the question period. But if you have any other questions, please reach out to your VSGi account manager or myself, and I'd be happy to connect you with Michael. His information is also on the screen. I will be sending this presentation out to everyone who registered momentarily, and it will also be up on the VSGi website by the end of the day. Michael, thanks again for your time today. This was great information. And, you know, again, if anyone has any further questions, please reach out to your VSGi rep.
That sounds great, and thank you guys so much. And just to reiterate that, any questions you may have, please go through your VSGi rep, and I'm happy to do a one-on-one live demo with you guys to do a deep dive into the functionality, everything that it could do, and then if you're interested, like I said, get a demo unit. So please encourage you, to lean on us for that. And again, thank you all very much. I appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Take care.